The morning air in the bustling JFK terminal was thick with the scent of lukewarm coffee and hurried anxiety, a stark contrast to the pocket of calm I had managed to carve out for myself. My name is Alex, and after a month of the most draining work I had ever done, I was finally heading home. The flight to Los Angeles felt less like a journey and more like a long overdue sigh of relief. My ticket was for seat 2A, a first-class window seat. I had never flown first class before. The upgrade had been a last-minute, non-negotiable part of the deal for the project I had just completed, a small but significant concession my client had made to ensure I was fully rested for what came next. As I stepped onto the plane, I was grateful for the quiet luxury of the cabin. The plush leather seat, the generous legroom, and the comforting sense of space were a welcome sanctuary. I stowed my small bag, took my seat, and buckled up, a faint smile on my face. The flight attendant, a friendly woman with a warm smile, offered me a pre-flight drink. I politely declined, choosing instead to close my eyes and let my mind drift, anticipating the calm hours ahead. My moment of peace was short-lived. A sudden, sharp voice cut through the cabin's quiet hum. "Excuse me, but you're in my seat." I opened my eyes and looked up. Standing over me was a woman who seemed to embody a specific kind of American confidence, the kind born from years of getting her way. She was impeccably dressed in a tailored cream-colored suit, her blonde hair coiffed into a perfect, impenetrable helmet, and her face set in a look of impatient authority. Her name, I would later learn, was Barbara. A former HOA president of a prestigious Florida community, she had the air of someone who had won too many arguments about garbage can placement and rogue lawn ornaments. I looked at her, then down at my boarding pass. "Ma'am, I believe this is seat 2A. This is my ticket." She let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Oh, honey, that's a cute little mistake. You must have misread your ticket. This is my seat. My name is on the manifest. Barbara Thompson. Now, if you'll just move, we can get this show on the road." Her tone wasn't a request. It was an order. Her gaze swept over me, a quick and judgmental assessment, as if she were inspecting my attire for a violation of some unwritten dress code. I calmly unclipped my boarding pass from the folder and held it up for her to see. "My name is Alex. As you can see, the seat number clearly says 2A. Her eyes narrowed, her confidence momentarily faltering, but it quickly returned, now laced with genuine irritation. "This is absurd. I have been flying this route for years. I have never not had this seat. The airline knows me. They know my status. There has been a mistake." The flight attendant, seeing the escalating situation, approached with a practiced, neutral expression. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" "Yes, there's a problem," Barbara huffed, not even looking at her. "This man is in my seat and he refuses to move. He claims his ticket says 2A, but that's impossible. I have this seat booked every time." The flight attendant gently tried to intervene. "Ma'am, if you could show me your boarding pass, I can help clear this up. We can verify the seat numbers at the gate." Barbara's jaw tightened. She clutched her purse, her knuckles turning white. "I don't need to show you anything. I am a gold medallion member. I am on a special flight plan. This man is clearly a mistake. Maybe he's a last-minute upgrade who got a fraudulent ticket." I watched her with a mixture of disbelief and growing frustration. I was a man of logic. My ticket was digital and valid. There was no argument to be had. But to Barbara, this wasn't about logic. It was about principle. Her principle. "Ma'am, I can assure you there is no fraud. My ticket was issued directly from the airline," she scoffed, a loud, theatrical sound that drew the attention of the other first-class passengers. "Oh, please. You have no idea who you're talking to. I have friends in very high places. I was the former HOA president of Sunbrook Ridge for 8 years. I have resolved more land disputes and parking violations than you've had hot dinners." She took a deep, indignant breath, as if a lifetime of petty neighborhood disputes gave her the right to my seat. The flight attendant's smile began to look strained. "Ma'am, I just need to verify your ticket. It's airline policy." This was the final straw for Barbara. With a frustrated sigh, she threw her purse onto the empty seat across the aisle. From within, she meticulously pulled out a small laminated card. It wasn't a boarding pass. It was a sleek silver card with her name and a series of numbers and letters, but it looked different from any frequent flyer card I had ever seen. On it, in small, almost unreadable text, it referenced a special agreement with the airline. "You see this?" she said, her voice dropping to a low, confident whisper. "This document gives me special personal privileges. It's a deal I worked out with corporate because of, let's just say, past contributions. You have no idea who I am, and I suggest you stop wasting my time and everyone else's. My seat is 2A, and this proves I have a right to it, and that your presence is the clerical error, not mine." She held the card up, a smug look of victory on her face. The other passengers watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen next. Barbara was confident this little piece of plastic would be her trump card. But as the flight attendant's eyes fell on the card, her expression changed from one of polite neutrality to quiet concern. This wasn't just a simple mix-up. This was something else entirely. The flight attendant's composed expression was a finely tuned mask, but the slight tightening around her eyes told me what I already knew. Barbara's special document had just complicated a simple dispute. The silver card, with its official-looking script and the hint of an unknown agreement, had shifted the argument from a matter of who was right to who had a superior claim. The other first-class passengers had fallen silent, their polite interest now mixed with a palpable sense of anticipation. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about privilege and power. The flight attendant straightened up, her voice still calm but with a new, firm edge. "Ma'am, I understand you feel you have a special arrangement, but airline policy requires a valid boarding pass to claim a seat. I still need to see your ticket to verify your information against our manifest." Barbara scoffed, snatching the card back and tucking it away. "This is my ticket. You have no idea what it took to get this. Do you know how much I did for the community? The sacrifices I made? I was a self-appointed HOA nomad. I spent years going from one high-end development to another, consulting on community bylaws, advising on landscaping violations, and ensuring architectural conformity." She said the words HOA nomad as if it were a prestigious title, not a self-invented one. My work saved countless neighborhood values from being tarnished by rogue trampolines and unapproved paint colors. You think this airline hasn't heard of me? You think they haven't seen my dedication? Her voice, which had started as a whisper of self-importance, had risen in volume with each sentence, the indignation building. She gestured wildly with her hands, as if conducting an invisible orchestra of her own past achievements. I single-handedly took down the rogue shed epidemic in Sunbrook Ridge. I mandated a single approved shade of beige for every house. I even got a family to move their holiday decorations down 2 weeks early. These are not small things, young lady. These are the foundations of civilized society. The airline owes me a debt of gratitude for my contributions to domestic order. This seat is the least they could do. As she spoke, I watched the flight attendant's calm facade begin to crack. The woman was a professional, no doubt, but Barbara's story was so absurd, so inflated, that it was becoming a caricature. The flight attendant gently tried to interject. "Ma'am, that's very commendable. But my manifest shows this seat belongs to Mr. Alex here. The airline's system is rarely wrong. Can you tell me which specific agreement this card refers to? It isn't a standard program." Barbara's eyes darted away for a moment, a subtle but telling flicker of uncertainty. She had been operating on pure bluster, assuming her confidence alone would be enough. She regained her composure quickly, but the hesitation was there. "It's a proprietary arrangement. I can't just go around discussing the details of my deals with corporate. It's confidential. But trust me, it's a direct result of my tireless work with the HOA community." She puffed out her chest, looking around at the other passengers as if daring them to question her. I felt a small, involuntary smile tug at the corner of my mouth. I had to intervene, not with anger, but with a simple, quiet question that would expose the flaw in her logic. If this is a private arrangement for a specific seat on a specific flight, shouldn't the airline have notified the pilot or the cabin crew in advance? Shouldn't your name be on a special list for this flight? I've never heard of a system that would book 2 people in the same premium seat. Barbara whipped her head around to glare at me. her face a mask of fury. "I don't have to answer to you. You're just a clerical error. You're not a part of this special arrangement. This is between me and the airline. My years of maintaining order in a turbulent world give me a right to this seat. Now, are you going to move, or do I have to make a formal complaint about your lack of compliance?" The flight attendant's expression had hardened. The pleasant smile was gone, replaced by a cold, no-nonsense professionalism. It was clear that Barbara's relentless lies and aggressive behavior had crossed a line. It wasn't about the seat anymore. It was about a passenger disrupting the pre-flight routine and attempting to manipulate the crew. The flight attendant took a small step back, her eyes fixed on Barbara. Her voice was no longer a polite query, but a decisive announcement. "Ma'am, because of your continued disruption and your refusal to cooperate with standard airline procedure, I have no choice but to inform the cockpit. The pilot has been notified and is coming to handle the situation personally." The words hung in the air, a chilling silence descending upon the cabin. Barbara's face went from indignant rage to stunned disbelief. She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. The flight attendant simply gave her a resolute look, turned, and walked toward the cockpit door, leaving Barbara frozen in place, a queen who had just been dethroned. Barbara stood frozen, her face a mask of shocked fury as the flight attendant disappeared into the cockpit. The other passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their previous silent judgment replaced by a growing curiosity. No one had ever seen a pilot called out for a seating dispute, especially not one that had escalated so quickly. A moment later, the cockpit door opened and a man emerged. He was tall, with a kind but serious face and sharp, observant eyes that seemed to take in the entire scene at a single glance. His captain's uniform was immaculate. This was Captain Miller. He walked with an easy confidence, his gaze moving from the flight attendant to Barbara and then, finally, to me. There was a quiet authority in his presence that immediately diffused the tense energy in the cabin. He didn't say a word, simply held out his hand. "Ma'am, may I please see your boarding pass?" Barbara, still reeling from the shock of his presence, fumbled in her purse and pulled out the crumpled ticket she had been hiding. She handed it to him with a trembling hand, her voice a low, resentful whisper. "This is a misunderstanding. I have a special arrangement with the airline. He's in my seat. I have documentation. I was a former HOA. Captain Miller cut her off with a polite but firm gesture. He didn't even need to look at the ticket for more than a second. He knew exactly what was going on. He pulled a tablet from his jacket pocket and scanned my boarding pass. A quiet beep confirmed my information, and he nodded slowly. He then turned his full attention back to Barbara, his voice calm and even. "Ma'am, my records show that you are booked for a standard economy seat, 27B. There is no special arrangement listed for your flight. As for this document you mentioned—" He paused, his gaze fixed on her. "I'm very familiar with the special agreement you refer to. It's an old program we had for frequent flyers who, let's say, provided valuable feedback, but it was a temporary program." Barbara's jaw dropped. She looked like she had just been punched. "That's impossible. I spoke to corporate. They assured me my status was permanent. I helped them avoid a major incident with a disgruntled resident over a noise complaint. The airline should be thanking me." Captain Miller's expression remained unchanged, betraying no emotion. He spoke the next words with a chillingly direct honesty. "Your valuable feedback, as you call it, resulted in a dozen formal complaints from airline staff about your behavior. You were the only passenger to ever get a hostile passenger flag attached to your file. The program was not just temporary, it was revoked. Your actions did not grant you special privileges. They did the exact opposite. The air was sucked out of Barbara's sails. Her face flushed a deep crimson, a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. The other passengers, who had been listening with rapt attention, let out a collective, soft murmur of surprise and satisfaction. Her whole HOA nomad story had been a carefully constructed lie to get her way, and it had just been publicly dismantled by the one person whose word was absolute. Captain Miller then turned to me, a warm and genuine smile replacing his formal demeanor. "Mr. Alex, on behalf of the crew, I apologize for this disruption. Please rest assured you are in the correct seat." "In fact," he said, his voice rising just enough to be heard by everyone in the first-class cabin, "this seat was reserved specifically for you. It's a very special assignment for a very special passenger." Barbara sputtered, completely infuriated. "What? What do you mean, special? I'm the one with the years of service. What makes him so special?" Captain Miller ignored her, his eyes fixed on me. "We've been expecting you, Mr. Alex. Your flight is a top priority for us. We've been tracking your arrival for the last hour to ensure everything went smoothly." He then looked over at the now humiliated Barbara, his gaze stern. "As for you, ma'am, due to your disruptive behavior, you will be taking your assigned seat in coach. If there are any further incidents, we will have to call security upon landing." Barbara stood motionless for a moment, defeated. She finally picked up her belongings and, with a final resentful glare at me, slinked away toward the back of the plane. As she disappeared, Captain Miller leaned in close to me, his voice a low, confidential whisper. "Don't worry about her. We're just glad you made it. We have a lot of people counting on you." He then pulled out his cell phone, his face becoming serious again. He made a quick call. "We have him on board, and he's secure," he said into the phone, his voice hushed. "The flight is on schedule. We'll be on the ground in a few hours. Tell the team to be ready. It's going to be a perfect day." He ended the call, gave me a reassuring nod, and walked back toward the cockpit, leaving me with 100 new questions. My first-class seat wasn't just a simple upgrade. It was part of a larger, carefully orchestrated plan. As Captain Miller gave his final stern order, a visible shudder went through Barbara. All the bluster, all the self-righteous indignation that had defined her for the last half hour simply evaporated. She was not a conquering monarch. She was a defeated commoner being sent to the back of the line. She picked up her bags with an air of profound humiliation, her face a fiery red. She didn't look at me as she passed, her gaze fixed on the floor, a picture of silent, defeated rage. The first-class cabin watched her go, a collective sigh of relief passing through the air. The other passengers, who had been holding their breath, now turned to me with smiles and nods of approval. One older gentleman across the aisle gave me a small wink. "Good on you, son. Some people have no class, even in first class." A woman in the row behind me leaned forward. "We were all rooting for you." She was absolutely insufferable. I gave them a grateful nod. The energy in the cabin had changed completely. It was no longer a stage for a petty power struggle, but a place of quiet camaraderie. Captain Miller waited until Barbara was out of sight before returning. He gestured to the flight attendant to prepare the cabin for takeoff, then leaned over my seat, his voice now a low, gentle rumble. "Come with me, Alex. There's something I need to show you." He led me not to the cockpit but to a small private galley near the front of the plane, a space I hadn't even realized existed. The door shut behind us, muffling the final sounds of passengers settling in. The space was small and sterile, but a feeling of profound peace settled over it. Captain Miller took a deep breath, his professional demeanor softening. "Look, Alex, I know what just happened was a bit of a scene. I truly apologize for it. But to be honest, I'm glad it happened. It gave me a chance to do what I've been wanting to do since I saw your name on the manifest." He looked at me, his eyes now filled with a deep paternal warmth. "I want to thank you." From the bottom of my heart, I was confused. "For what, Captain? Just for being in my seat?" He chuckled softly. "No, for giving. For giving a gift that is more valuable than any first-class seat in the world. I'm not just a pilot on this flight, Alex. I'm a friend of the recipient." He then began to explain. "I have a very close friend. He's a single father, a widower. He has a son, a little boy named Liam. He's 8 years old. Liam was born with a severe congenital heart defect. For his entire life, he's been in and out of hospitals. We've been waiting for a miracle for years. For a donor." My mind raced back to the moment I had signed up to be an organ donor. It had been years ago, a simple box I checked on a driver's license application, a distant, abstract concept that never felt real until now. Captain Miller continued, his voice thick with emotion. "Yesterday we got the call. There was a match, the perfect match. And that donor was you." My breath caught in my throat. "I was an organ donor, but I had never thought the reality of it would come to this. It was a profound, humbling moment. "The organ has been carefully transported," Captain Miller said, his voice more controlled now. "And your travel was coordinated by the hospital. They needed to get you here, to Los Angeles, as quickly and as comfortably as possible. We couldn't risk any stress, any dehydration, any sort of physical discomfort. Your seat wasn't a random luxury, it was part of a meticulously planned medical transport. They needed you rested, calm, and ready. That's why we gave you the first-class seat." He paused, a flicker of pain crossing his face. "And when I saw your name on the manifest, I knew I had to be the pilot on this flight. I asked for the assignment personally. I wanted to fly the man who was going to save my friend's son." I was speechless. I thought back to the conflict with Barbara, her fighting over a seat, her lies about HOA privileges and a special agreement. All of that self-important noise felt like a million miles away now. It was all so small, so utterly meaningless in the face of what was truly happening. The contrast between her pettiness and the gravity of my purpose was staggering. Captain Miller reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He opened it and carefully took out a small, polished silver pin shaped like a heart with a pair of tiny wings. He handed it to me. "This is from Liam's father and me," he said, his eyes a little misty. "It's a little thank you, but more than that, it's a promise. Your story with us ends when we land, but your true journey is just beginning. What you're about to do is one of the most heroic things a person can ever do. We'll be waiting for you, and we'll be ready." He then gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze, a silent expression of gratitude that meant more than any words. The engines outside hummed, a comforting, steady sound. As the plane taxied to the runway, I looked down at the pin in my hand, a silent symbol of a life about to be changed forever. The rest of the flight was as smooth as a glass lake. The turbulence and tension of the beginning were a distant memory, replaced by a profound, almost spiritual calm. I looked out the window at the endless blue, the clouds like soft cotton below. I thought about Barbara and how her entire world seemed to revolve around proving her petty importance. She had fought for a seat, a physical space, an object of comfort and privilege. But in doing so, she had lost something far more valuable, her dignity and the respect of everyone around her. I thought about the little heart pin in my hand, the silver glint catching the light. It wasn't just a symbol of my journey, it was a symbol of hope. The pilot had spoken of a small boy, Liam. That name, that young life, was the reason for all of this. My purpose wasn't about a seat or a status. It was about a life-saving mission, a selfless act that had been quietly set in motion years ago, now reaching its beautiful conclusion. The whole incident with Barbara, which had felt so large and stressful at the time, was now just a small, insignificant blip on the radar of a much bigger, more meaningful story. As the plane began its descent, the sprawling grid of Los Angeles appeared below, a vast network of lights and roads. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, a final announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be landing at Los Angeles International Airport shortly. On behalf of the crew and myself, Captain Miller, I want to thank you for flying with us today. To one very special passenger on this flight, I want to say, your courage and generosity will not be forgotten. You have brought hope to a family, and we are forever grateful." I knew he was talking about me. The kind words, whispered for a moment, were a final confirmation that this journey was special, that this wasn't just another flight. Meanwhile, back in the cramped rows of coach, Barbara was having a different experience. She was wedged between two large, talkative men, her knees pressed against the seat in front of her. The flight was long, uncomfortable, and hot. She had a terrible headache. She couldn't stop replaying the moment Captain Miller had exposed her lies. The shame burned hotter than the stuffy cabin air. She had expected to arrive in Los Angeles a hero, but instead she was just an anonymous, disgruntled passenger, cramped and alone. Her entire existence, built on the shifting sands of self-importance, had crumbled at the hands of a calm pilot. As the plane touched down, I felt a gentle jolt, a final sign that my journey had ended. The flight attendant came over and handed me a card. It was a note from Captain Miller. It read, "Safe landing, Alex. The transplant team is ready. We'll be thinking of you and Liam. Your act will create a beautiful story." The flight was just the first chapter. I looked out the window and saw a waiting ambulance and a group of people with anxious, hopeful faces. My journey was over. My purpose was beginning. And somewhere, a little boy's future was about to get a whole lot brighter.